My personal opinion is I'm against shark culling. It's like killing all the lions in Africa so I can go there for a safari and be safe. So, look, this is a presentation I did 2 weeks ago, unfortunately in Monaco. I know you'd all love to have been there with me. And we had an opportunity to be with about 15 experts from around the world to look at exactly the issue that you're talking about, is how do we live with sharks and conserve sharks and use the available media and communication and technology to make the general public feel more safe and secure. So quickly, electronic shark deterrent is 2 electrodes, and those 2 electrodes on this particular product here, you can see, and you're welcome to come and have a look at the table, there's a piece of stainless steel here, and then a bit further down, about 1.2 metres away, there's another piece of stainless steel. Those 2 electrodes trail behind the diver or sit on the diver or the surfer. The salt water acts as a conductor between those 2 electrodes. That creates a large electrical field that's roughly 4 to 6 metres, a bit like a football shape, so a 3-dimensional shape. The field that you're looking at there, that data has been constructed by the South African National Space Agency. This technology was originally developed 20 years ago. The product's been on the market for nearly 18 years. I actually didn't invent the technology. I acquired the company 2 years ago. I looked at it 15 years ago, tried to buy it 5 years ago. It is very, very good technology that's been very poorly marketed. It's like a microwave oven. It gives you cancer and it ruins your food. For those of you that are old enough, that's what microwave ovens were like. And so shark deterrents have been the same. There's a lot of myths about them. You know, do they attract sharks? Do they work? Etc., etc., etc. So the way this technology works is pretty simple. The shark, like any other predator, has a range of sensors to hunt food. And one of those sensors is called the ampulla of Lorenzini, which is these little gel-filled sacs. They can use it to sense very low voltages, up to 1/1,000,000th of a volt. So they can feel your heartbeat, but they can only do it at very, very close range. So about a maximum of 50 centimetres. Same as you and I would use touch in the dark. The shark would use, or the rays would use these to sense food source with an electric current at very close range. So, for example, rays would use it to find food hidden underneath the sand. There are a couple of other animals that have this sense. The only marine animals, my understanding, is the sharks and rays. Platypuses also have this sense. They use it to find grubs under mud. You don't need a shark shield with a platypus. They're pretty okay. So that's how it works. It doesn't attract sharks. It's actually an interesting myth that's very prevalent in Western Australia in the surfing industry. So you can paddle out down south electronic shark deterrent on, and guys will tell you to get out of the water. Now, the ampulla of Lorenzini is very short. They will feel you in the water or smell you in the water if you're bleeding, for example, way before they will sense any electrical current. And as you saw from the previous slide, the field strength after about 6 or 8 metres is 0. If you want to transmit an electrical current or pulse underwater, it has to be very, very low frequency. You need a shitload of power. That's a technical term. And you need a very... I jumped on SwellNet about a year ago, I think it was, and I had all these servers. I stayed on this thing for like 95 comments trying to dispel this myth. And the best analogy I could come up with was 2, is that if anyone was going to transmit electrical current at great distances underwater, not acoustic, electrical pulses, it would be the military. Now, 80% of torpedoes are still controlled with a wire attached to them. The only other method of communicating under the water is a submarine tracking station. We've got one here in Australia in Exmouth. The tower is 394 metres high and it pumps out a bit of power, a little bit more than a shark shield, so they don't attract sharks. I want you to read that in detail and we'll do questions later. This product has had so much scientific research on it, independent, peer-reviewed scientific research. And so there's no doubt as to how well the product works. Now, what we've been working on in the last couple of years to make sure that the community and the public understand that the research exists and that the research is compelling and it works. Charlie Hoogan is going to South Australia did some research following an accident of a marine biologist who died in a shark attack who was wearing a shark shield. The coroner found that the shark shield was in the boot of his car, so he didn't die wearing a shark shield, which is another myth in the marketplace. Anyway, two of the pieces of research that Charlie did is he put a shark shield and he put some bait about 3 metres away from the shark shield, so to the edge of that electrical field. Now what he found, and what the media reported on, was that the shark would still take that bait. And that is true, the shark did take that bait. That bait was a 6-kilo piece of tuna in chummed up water. So yes, the shark took the bait. It took the shark 50% longer to take the bait. What they didn't report on was his second test, where he went to South Africa, and the seal decoy, the last presenter showed the slides of the shark coming out of the water at a breach, attacking a seal decoy. I'm sure you all here are familiar with that video, it's quite common. And so what he did is he put the shark shield underneath the seal decoy, so the shark's got to come through the field to get to the seal. He did 189 toes, half with the shark shield turned on and half with it turned off. With it off, he had 16 breaches and 27 interactions where the seal of the shark got to the decoy. With the shark shield on, he had 0 breaches and only 2 interactions with the seal decoy. So that's a great white shark, numerous sizes, at pace, full attack mode, going, I don't like this. So I think it works. There's 3 models. There's the Freedom 7, and I'm not going to spend any time on the product. The Scuba, which has a shorter antenna, a lot of military defence people use that. And we do have a surfboard product that trails along behind the board, but if you're a performance surfer, intermediate or above, if you're a guy like me that's 50, weighs 95 kilos and surfs a 7-foot board, you don't really notice it as much. You notice it a lot less than people think you notice it. If you're like my son, down the back who surfs a 5'5" or a 5'6", who's a very high performance surfer doing aerials, it's not possible to use this product on a surfboard. So where Dave, the previous presenter on Surf Safe, is heading, that is the right direction. Somehow you've got to get it into the board, and that's certainly where we're heading. What we're doing is we're actually looking at using the fins as the electrodes. As I said before, the critical factor in the performance of the product is the size of the electrodes. You have to have a large surface area and you've got to have distance to be able to create an effective electrical field so that when the shark gets there, the field is powerful enough to deter the shark. Now, luckily for surfers, generally speaking, they're surfing in 3 or 4 metres of water, and so the shark in the seal decoy example, they come from quite a big depth when they come at that charged motion, generally speaking. So by positioning the electrical field around the rear of the board, like not all the time, but in general terms, most predators will come from behind. You don't see a lion walking front up to a gazelle to say, hey, I'm thinking of hunting you. They'll hunt and come from behind, and sharks are no different. They're very good predators. So configuring the field around the back of the board where a nice where a surfer's sitting on the board like that, so the rear of the board's in the water, they're paddling, they're surfing, generally speaking, that should work quite well. So that's what we're playing with. We expect to have a product into the market probably, we're going to plan this time next year. Now the key thing is, and if there's scientists in the room, they want to see data on this, and yep, so would I. But theoretically speaking, you could assume that if you had 10 or 15 or 20 surfers in the water and they all had an electrical field on their surfboard, that effectively it would look like a minefield to a shark. If a shark came to that area, surely there'd be some safety in numbers. And so I think we're going to sort of head down that path and that theory, and the same would apply for divers. In fact, we've got numerous testimonials on our website where a diver has been attacked by a shark, bailed up by a shark, and their friends who are wearing a shark shield have actually came and saved them. So there is definitely safety in numbers with these products. So in answer to the sort of, what more can we do as a community, not just Shark Chill, as a community of scientists to help with this, somehow you've got to drive some rational media discussion, which is tough. It's a tough thing. And I don't have to go into statistics, you all know the statistics. Nobody dies of a shark attack, seriously. 6, maybe 10 people in the world of 6.5, 7 billion people die of a shark. 300 people a year die drowning in Australia. That's not to take away, you know, the issue of the families of those who have had fatality, but the statistical numbers do not support the irrational media that occurs with this particular predator. The scientific community, and this is a personal plug, you know, because I've been in this business for a couple of years, it's absolutely amazing. I've just come from this conference. Did I mention Monaco? And there were 15 or so of some of the, you know, scientists from around the world. And I was amazed at how many of them didn't even know that there were peer-reviewed scientific research on shark shooting. And they hadn't seen some of the research. I mean, one of those bits of research done by Smith and Pettimore's an Australian guy, I think, in Sydney. South African is Pettimore's? Okay. Yeah. They did a piece of research in 2002 where they put a 6-kilo piece of tuna in the centre of the electrical field, and 0 times the shark could take the boat. 0 times. If you talk to Paul Bond, I can't pronounce his last name, the guy who's in charge of the shark barrier that you've just seen in the paper the recent couple of days, they've been working 10 years on that. He was the guy that was developing this product 20 years ago. I had him over here a couple of months ago, and he said they have had 0 failures when they put the bait in the centre of the field. And so a lot of people don't realise that. I think there needs to be continued independent scientific research, and we're talking about that. And this comes, you know, to get that we need better political education and awareness of electronic deterrents and or other offerings, whether they, you know, be drones or barriers or whatever. You know, I support all of them. Community education and awareness of these products, which is why, thank you, opportunity to come down today and give you an education of what we're doing and what we have and how well it's been tested. And then the common gripe that we've heard from everyone today is, you know, government and private investment. And look, you know, the scientific side of it is always tough, getting government money and grants. I know UWA have done pretty well with the WA government. In fact, they've been testing electronic deterrents, and they'll come out with a peer-reviewed scientific research paper next year, which again supports that technology as a viable solution going forward. And so it's tough, you know, investment is very, very tough. And I think you made a comment, you know, WA and Australia is tiny on the global scale. You know, it's small population, small amounts of money, etc., etc. So it's pretty tough. There you go, Natalie, 10 minutes. I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have.